All right, call the meeting to order, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 20th, 21?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, any discussion, corrections, comments? All right, roll call vote, starting with Larry.
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
and yes for myself.
Point of order.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think Larry's.
Oh, yeah, Larry, can you tell us where you are and if you're allowed?
Yes. I'm in my office and there's nobody here but myself. My name's Larry Heath.
Thank you.
You bet.
Manifests are going around. Tom, do you have any nominations,
No,
resignations?
no.
And you've got a report.
Yes, I just wanted to take a few moments to thank the folks who attended the deliberative last Wednesday. Went very smoothly. I think it might have been an all-time deliberative record of under 1 hour, just about 55 minutes. All warrant articles will be moving forward as presented. And we really look forward to seeing people for the voting portion of our deliberative coming up in just a couple of weeks. Phyllis, what is the date of that again? The 9th, March 9th, and that is at the Swayze Gym in Kingston. And they changed the location in Newton, right? Where is it?
Rescue Fire Station at 8D Merrimack Road.
Okay, the Rescue Fire Station at 8D Merrimack Road in Newton for the Newton vote. All right, so just want to make sure folks know where to go, and we look forward to seeing you there. I did want to make sure that the board and the community knows that next Tuesday, Jody Gutterman, myself, and Brian Stack will be making a 20-minute presentation to the Fremont School Board about Sanborn Regional High School and what we will offer Fremont students as they consider their next step in the process of choosing a location for their students at the close of their contract with the Sanborn Regional School District. The other two districts that will be presenting that evening are Raymond and Pinkerton Academy. So it's Sanborn, Pinkerton, and Raymond that are in the running. Had a nice conversation with Superintendent Hutton today. They gave us some predetermined items that they'd like us to cover. So it's a pretty straight ahead PowerPoint about what we offer and what we would offer for special ed students and regular ed students. The team has been working hard on the presentation this week, and I look forward to sharing that with the Fremont community next week. In addition to that, we have had some problems with the boiler at Bakey, and that has been added to the agenda for this evening for discussion. We have to figure out a plan. One boiler is very, very close to permanently failing, and the other one is starting to have issues. So we just need to figure out a plan to move forward. I don't want to get surprised and find out that we should have to close school due to a boiler failure at Bakey. So we're certainly optimistic that we can figure out a plan between the facilities subcommittee and Mr. Angel and Mr. Doyle and our facilities team. But we'll discuss that later this evening. And then in addition to that, I look forward to the next board meeting where we have a report out from the EISA committee, but I do want to share that we're moving forward with our ALMA program, which is the new grade reporting software. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Haynes publicly for all of her hard work on that program. It is a lot of work to roll out a new student information system that does grading and curriculum mapping. And this year, we're mostly focusing on the grade reporting component, but the work is going very well. And also thank the members of the EISA committee for all of their hard work in helping us to ensure that we can more clearly and easily articulate to the community and where their child is with regard to their academic progress, and then also create a vehicle for communication to staff to either improve their child's progress or support it if they are falling behind. So thanks everyone for all that work. I'm sure that Mrs. Mahoney will give a more detailed update when she's ready at the next meeting, but I just wanted to mention that work is going forward. We are also nearing the end phases of figuring out a math program for grades K through 8. As you know from the budget process, there was $117,000 in the budget for a new math program, and provided that everything is smooth at the deliberative, we will be purchasing the program for next year. Sometime later next month, we will be presenting that program to the EISA committee and then to the school board for adoption. I do want to mention that we have an item that would need to be discussed either this evening or soon, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure that it would be festive to have a school board meeting on St. Patrick's Day. So I was wondering if the board might consider moving that to the day before or the day after. So just a thought. We do need a meeting because we need to name a chair and have a process for assigning subcommittees, so that particularly for EISA, they need to meet on the 24th, hopefully. So we're asking you to kind of help us out with that. I think some of us might like to enjoy St. Patrick's Day, and so I'll look to your leadership for a decision about whether or not we meet on St. Patrick's Day. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, so committee reports. Put your hand up if you have, okay? Okay, so Tammy, Isa?
Because of the deliberative and our schedule, I haven't given a report on our last EISA committee meeting. We did meet this evening, just before this meeting, as Mr. Ambrose mentioned, and I'll report on that meeting at our next meeting. But we had a meeting on January 20th that I wanted to report on. In attendance of that meeting, myself, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mrs. Dutton, Mr. Ambrose, Dr. Haynes, Ms. Levitt, Principal Stack, Assistant Principal Malilla, Principal Snyder, Principal McCluskey, Principal DeRozier, Mrs. Conant, Title I Administrator, Secondary Math Coordinator Grace Evans, District Math Coordinator Donna Donnell. Okay, so at that meeting, Dr. Haynes reported on the Alma reporting system. Report card templates are being reviewed, and the committee will discuss important content items at the next meeting. Superintendent Ambrose believes the report card should provide the basis for parents to have a conversation with the teacher. As a parent, he looks for a report card to convey where a child is in relation to established benchmarks, how the child is doing developmentally and in relation to peers, and information on areas for improvement. Dr. Haynes reported that the math curriculum search has been narrowed down to 3 options, which are being reviewed. The target is March to present a recommendation to the board. Mrs. Donnell and Ms. Evans are collaborating to ensure that the lower and upper grade curricula will be in alignment. Mr. Malilla reported that a committee is being formed to discuss the high school schedule and diploma requirements, and will be meeting, the target was to meet on the 3rd Thursday of every month. Mr. Stack reported on the student success data for the class of 2020. Some of the indicators were impacted by COVID, of course, like everything else, difficult to track, such as CTE or industry credentials earned due to the closure of many businesses. But the percentage of students meeting the definition of student success remained steady from last year at 85%. He also reported that the district's graduation rates remain high and dropout rates are low. Department of Ed data for 2020 isn't available on their website yet, but for 2019, the graduation rate was 98.1%, just compared to the state average of 88.42%. The district's dropout rate was 0.63%, compared to the state average of 2.73%. Mr. Ambrose noted the discrepancy between the district's success indicators and test scores. He'll be meeting regularly with Dr. Haynes and the Title I and math coordinators to focus on instruction. He also noted that the master schedule changes are part of the strategy to free up more time for instruction. Overall priorities for improved student outcomes will include changing instructional practices and aligned curriculum, effective assessments, and remediation. Thank you. Oh, and our next meeting, we hope, will be March 24th.
Okay. Jamie?
Yeah, I just want to comment on the superintendent's comments on St. Patrick's Day being the high holy day. It's a greatly appreciated comment. Thank you.
And I did notice that we could meet on Wednesday, the 10th, and that would give us enough time. So we could meet on the 10th instead of the 17th.
That would work too.
That kind of cuts it close for new members to be sworn in though, because the election is the day before.
No, it's the Tuesday before. It's a week before.
It's on
The election is on the 9th.
Oh, it's on the 9th. I'm sorry. I
The
thought.
10th. That's the following day.
Oh, you're right. Thank
You
you.
could just do the organization meeting after that.
Yeah, we have to wait a certain number of days for everyone to be
Yeah.
sworn in.
Right.
All right, we'll figure out a plan.
Yeah. So Finance Committee meeting held on February 3rd. In attendance was Mr. Baker and myself. Mr. Broderick was excused. Minutes were accepted unanimously. Mr. Angel provided a business administrator comment on the state of the state on the district from the business administrator's perspective, which is shared online so people could see that. It basically reviewed federal grants and distributions are being audited by the U.S. Department of Education starting sometime in February. They can audit any grants selected, and our speculation is this likely going to be the COVID grants because that's where the majority of the money is. Anticipating in-person learning will happen the balance of the year, and he reviewed some of the attendant costs with that. Mr. Angel also provided financial information in this new format, stepping through revenues and expenses. Spending was broken down by school. Bakey has 8.6% of the budget still unencumbered. Memorial 11.45, the middle school 12.47, high school 9.44. The SAU is overexpended, 8.96, and that's driven by custodial services and legal costs. And district-wide spending is 5.64% unencumbered. Mr. Angel is going to provide a number of students per school so we can just see what that spending levels are, as I had requested. Mr. Angel also provided info on financial risks, the lost boiler at Bakey, investigating repair and replacement. We'll be talking about that further tonight. Lost circulator pump at the high school, carbon buildup at the high school chimney, Memorial School playground equipment beginning to fail, and a dump truck body is rotting through the dump bed. And Matt was going to provide pictures as he did today for the facilities committee. He also reviewed the auditor engagement letter, which will need to be signed by the board. I asked that the engagement letter require that they provide areas of opportunity in their report out, areas of opportunity for improvement in their report out. This was supposed to be done at the last audit and was not, and Mr. Angel's working on that wording. He also reviewed questions the audits will likely ask the board as part of their audit in terms of the board's knowledge of or information about any concerns they have. Then we moved on to the trust fund balances. Special ed, these are December balances, was 241,000 and change. And the pennies are in the minutes. Capital improvement and maintenance fund 223, unanticipated educational expense 150, facilities revolving use 192. Total fund balance is $806,000, 350.87. Budget report, health insurance 656 unencumbered. Non-health insurance, 2.4 million unencumbered, so about 7.8% of the budget. Outstanding revenues are still the not yet billed Fremont tuitions, the education, adequate education grant for $1 million in school building aid. Mr. Angel also reported on online software. Jim Baker requested a comparison between the free and paid version of Infomatic, I think the name of it was. And I had asked for an updated spreadsheet, and Mr. Angel will be sending me the link to that. Reconciliation of facilities use fund at no activity June through December, and Matt provided the reconciliation, so we now have the full year reconciled. It was an open item from previously. Update on student cash allocation. Mr. Angel not able to resolve yet. Data sets are with the auditors, and he's focused on clearing out a $500 check. Mr. Angel himself actually went through it from an audit perspective and identified areas for improvement for the finance committee, which included primarily separation of duties, efficiency in processing invoices and payments, and data gathering and reporting capability using the new accounting system. Final spending worksheet was provided. Mr. Angel is developing a sheet in progress to allow better tracking of spending and changes and how it's impacting the different fund balances. And the reorganization reconciliation was provided. There's still some work to wrap that up. But where we are right now, projected costs were $720,587 per the initial estimates that were shared with the community. Actual cost to dates are $582,005. Savings to date versus that estimate is $112,507. Still to be paid against these savings are the wiring for the new school computer labs, signage, and corridor doors. So that number of 112 will be coming down. And the big savings there, and I think Mr. Ambrose had mentioned this before, although I don't know that we mentioned it in the meeting, was the change in what we had to do with the locker rooms that Mr. Stack had come up with, which was the big nut that provided most of the savings there. And we didn't have any new manifest questions. And that wraps up the minutes.
Okay. Larry, I didn't see whether you had anything on public relations.
Well, actually, Tom is going to be discussing one of the items.
Okay,
So that'll be it.
okay.
Otherwise, we already covered it last week.
Do you want to do that?
That's an agenda item for this.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So I skipped over facilities. Facilities met today. I'll give the report at the next school board meeting. And facilities would normally the next meeting would be the third Wednesday in March, but because we're going to reschedule the 17th, the next facilities meeting is to be determined. So that's it for committee reports. Public comment. Okay.
Oh, Dawn had a question.
Oh, Jake, I'm sorry, Jake.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sophomore students completed their first round of student independent projects during SIP in the past few weeks. They presented on a variety of topics, including music, sewing, computers, and video editing. The sophomore team is excited to see the next student independent projects later this year. Students in honors biology FLT have had senior helpers this past week guide the sophomores through a process of PCR and gel electrophoresis, forgive me if I misspelled that, to analyze DNA samples. And I'm told it was a great socially distanced lab experience for the kids. Sanborn Best Buddies right now is having a movie night. And we watched Jurassic Park and ate pizza, and it was a great time for all the students and their buddies. The student council is in the early stages of planning a winter carnival in a safe way. I don't have any details right now because we're really early on, but I will at the next meeting.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Did you notice that in Jurassic Park, the guy who stole the samples is Newman from Seinfeld? He's my favorite character.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Newman. Newman. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
My sons love Seinfeld and Jurassic Park.
I gotta watch Seinfeld again.
Yeah, Newman.
Yeah.
He's pretty
Nice
funny.
to see him working.
It is. It is. Yes, exactly.
Okay, public comment. Okay. Matt, you've got something on a donation?
Yeah, we've received a $500 donation from, and it's two different organizations, Global Partners and ExxonMobil for, and what it is it's a STEM grant. The $500 is going to be used for science, technology, engineering, and math STEM programs. Okay.
Awesome. Who applied for the grant?
I
Is that Jim Enright again, or?
probably,
Yeah.
it doesn't say, wait a minute, does it say who? I think, no, it's to the principal.
Mr. Stack. Okay,
So
great.
you need a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the $500.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Tammy?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Yes for myself.
Thank you.
Mr. Dawson?
I'm not sure. He should be here any second.
Okay. Do you want to move on to
Yeah,
the
let's keep going and I'll let him know we're ready for him.
academic calendar? You want
Yes.
to move on to financial
Nope,
audit?
nope, I'm okay. I'm just
Okay.
texting him. So the academic calendar, I did tell Dr. Haynes that I would handle this. She worked really hard on this, and if you look at the academic calendar that you received, it includes the early release days so that you would get a sense of when they would be. We did originally propose a higher number of early release days, and we have cut that back to try to get it down from, I think it was 26 to the number that are on here. So we wanted to start the process of having that conversation. And the way that we felt would be best to do that would be to present you with a calendar that reflects the early release days and the timing of those with the 5-day weeks. Everything else in the academic calendar is identical to all the other previous years.
Okay. Any comments or discussion? Motion to approve?
I have one quick question, sorry.
Okay.
Tom, in November, there are no early release days?
Yes, that was an area that we identified as not having any because there's usually only 15 days in November of student learning days. And we wanted to hold true to our message that we were looking for early releases on 5-day weeks, not weeks that were interrupted, but there were 2 times in the calendar that we took them out. One is the first few weeks of September because students are building routines, especially at the lower levels. And the other is in November. And we also put a note and want you to know that we would like to be able, we would rather have the early release days planned. And then if for some reason we feel that there have been too many snow days or interruptions, that we would then cancel one. It's easier to cancel one and add back in than to ask to add one, right? So we're trying to manage that because certainly when you look at March, we discussed at length whether or not we should, if you look at like the second week of March, there's no early release day that second week because there's a professional learning day on Friday. So we tried to balance that out across the calendar, but we also recognize that February, March can be really tricky with snow days. So we would like to reserve the right to, if there are too many snow days, to change them back to regular school days. And honestly, if I'd had that plan this week, today would have been a normal school day because we had a snow day. Well, we had a remote day yesterday, but it's just that push and pull of being in the seat. We really want students in the seat as much as possible, but we also recognize that we're implementing another huge layer of ALMA next year, a new math program, and a lot of initiatives around academics, and we need time for that. So, Jim. Oh, I think.
Yep, Jamie.
So that's what I was going to ask, Tom. So the exception you're listing is if we need academic days to meet Department of Education requirements. So this year, the extra early days were for preparation time, assess how we're doing with synchronous learning, figure out how to get that in.
Yeah.
Is there an ability, if in fact this pandemic fades through the summer and we're not experiencing any issues and it's 100% in person, do you still need days if these were originally brought in for a pandemic, if there's no pandemic implications in 2022?
Thanks for asking. There's really 2 different initiatives here. One is getting through this year. So there's another agenda item under old business 8.2, the review of early release days for the rest of this year. This is about the future of our organization and providing adequate time for us to do professional learning on Wednesday afternoons for our staff in an ongoing and continuous manner. So this request is not pertinent to the pandemic. This is pertinent to our academic goals. So my vision is or the administration's vision is that this type of early release day sequence would continue past the pandemic because we need time with teachers to provide them with the professional development and work with them on the programming that we're trying to get up and running. We need time to teach people how to do things differently. 3 days a year and 6 early releases is not enough time to really increase the teacher engagement that we need for improved instruction. Having said that, I think that we really recognize the burden on K-6 parents with childcare. So one thing that we're looking at is developing a childcare program using our staff, our paraprofessionals, to provide childcare for K-6 during those early release days for those who need it. Some parents have older siblings at home and their kids could just go home to their families. Some parents would like to have some childcare. We have to work that out over the next few months, but we need to start with whether or not we're going to go in this direction before we make that decision.
Yeah, I don't want to say from my personal perspective, I would be more comfortable if the exception was that these are subject to change based upon administration's assessment of the success of the program or something along those
Sure,
lines.
that'd be fine.
Who
Yep.
knows what's
Yep.
going to happen?
And snow days, right? Because I really, if we have 2 snow days in 1 week, we don't need an early release Wednesday. We're going to have to figure it out.
Yep.
So
Understood.
we really do want to retain that latitude to change this.
I just don't want to set an expectation that this is a locked in, for lack of a better word, perk that is now permanent and nobody's allowed to make any changes
Yeah.
if changes should change, if circumstances should change.
I think that that's very fair, and I would agree with that 100%.
Okay. So make a motion to approve the calendar with that amended language.
Second.
Second, Tammy? Okay. Roll call vote, Tammy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Larry?
I'm going to abstain. I have not seen the calendar.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, for myself.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know where Mr. Dawson is, so I'm going to read the sports report because it's really, things are going very well.
Okay.
So I just don't want to, he's in a game and there may be an issue.
Yep.
So
Yeah, very good.
I don't sound as cool as Mr. Dawson, but I'll try. All right. On January 20th, the school board rescinded the requirement that the student athletes learn remotely in order to participate in sports. And since that time, 3 situations have arisen among our 8 teams. 1 team was largely quarantined due to a positive case within the team. They continued to practice and play with students who did not have to quarantine, and others who returned to the team after the January 20th change in procedure. A second student athlete tested positive, but had been away from the team long enough to not require any quarantine.
Oh, good.
A third team was largely quarantined based on a positive test result by an opponent following a game the last weekend of January, and they missed several practices and 1 game as a result. Mr. Dawson provided a graph or a chart here that shows the number of cases. From September to December 15th, the high school had 6 cases and the middle school had 2. From December 16th to January 6th, the high school had 15 and all cases and 8 athletes. And the middle school had 5 cases and 4 athletes. January 17th to January 20th, the high school had 2 total cases, 1 athlete, and the middle school had 0 cases and 0 athletes. January 21st to February 9th, the high school had 2 cases and 1 athlete, and the middle school had all cases, 1 athlete, and one case and 1 athlete. I'm sorry. So it has gone globally. I'll just pause for a second and say the number of quarantines and cases has come down dramatically.
Yeah.
Congruent with New Hampshire, from the 150 range to the 27 range. So it's really going very, very well. And I continue to say that the safety protocols put in place clearly are working. Wearing a mask, socially distancing, and cleaning your hands and being very careful has been very effective in our schools. And I'm very proud of our schools that we have sports programs and that we're in person 5 days a week, not in cohorts 2 days and then 3 days out like a lot of places.
And there's been no evidence of any person-to-person transmission in the schools, right?
Because of the safety protocols. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that the masks, hand washing, sanitizing, and social distancing is preventing COVID from being transmitted from person to person in our schools at a very high level so far. So I'm very happy about that. So Mr. Dawson's recommendation is status quo, spring skills and drills begin. It appears that our rates of positivity have leveled out, and some self-awareness among athletes has kept us from having to quarantine our students based on Sanborn to Sanborn contact. So we also have not seen any cases of what appears to be athlete to athlete transmission, nor additional ripple effects on our teaching staff or even coaches. And I just want to pause and say thank you to our student athletes for being responsible when you don't feel well, or if you've been exposed, and respecting the rules has really made this work for everyone. I'm so proud of you. Traditionally, spring skills and drills would start around now. Track has been in this mode since December. Baseball and softball athletes normally begin preseason throwing to condition their arms for the season a month or more before the beginning of practices. Skills and drills can begin as soon as today with the submission of a plan to the NHIAA and involve mostly indoor throwing and hitting in our batting cage. These workouts are optional and are scheduled around winter sports practice for those student athletes involved in both. So basically, this is great job, everyone, and let's keep going. Any questions?
No, I just wanted to comment on that. We've had a lot of starts and stops on how do we manage through this? And we've had to call a lot of audibles as we tried to get through it. But by and large, our kids have been in school in person for those that felt comfortable with it and still getting a better education remotely than we were able to provide in the spring because of a lot of hard work from everybody, including student athletes. To your point, you know, it was not a sure thing there as to whether we're going to be able to continue with student athletes or not. And they've stepped up and helped make it work. So my hat's off to the teachers, the staff, the administration, and the students. A lot of districts have not been able to do this. And
Thank you.
It's just wonderful to see.
Thank you. And I would echo that back to the school board that there have been a lot of really difficult decisions to make. And many of my colleagues who are superintendents have had to not only deal with divisiveness in their staff, but among their school board members. And we have not experienced that. And that's made a world of difference, not only to me, but to the tone of the district. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Larry.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was being sincere. I was saying, thanks, Larry. I just always look over here and you're out there. I don't have Bob's information, Dawson's information on the plaques. Can we do that at the next meeting?
Sure.
So it's not a significant sum of money. I know that because I talked to him, but I don't know the exact numbers. So we can discuss that at the next meeting. Where were we now? Oh, approval of the yearbook advertisement.
Yeah.
Is that where we are?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So annually we do a yearbook advertisement and we just need board approval to do that again.
What is it?
Do we have an example, Phyllis?
$350 is, oh, what does it look like?
Yeah.
We do a nice message on like from the school board, best, you know, gosh, I wish we had them around.
Is it a full page or?
Full page.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I can show you next time, or I'll send it out to you. what it looks like.
Okay.
You might want to change the message this year.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's probably some things we could say.
Yeah, for
Isn't the
sure.
deadline?
Might be something you want to say that's a little different. I don't know.
Yeah, because of everything that's happened in the spirit of our students, I do think this might be, I'll take a look at it myself and maybe propose something. I know that this isn't easy for the kids, but acknowledging that the grit that they've learned through COVID, it may be more effective to helping their lives than academics is a legitimate point, right? That learning how to maintain yourself when things are really hard is really, really important.
I think we need to look at what the deadline is to make changes, because I know we just did an ad for our seniors and the deadline is midnight tomorrow.
Oh,
Just a heads up.
all right. Well, Phyllis and I will take a look at it. Maybe we'll leave it the same, but we'll see what it says.
So do you need a,
I just need a motion to
Move.
approve.
I
the-
move to approve.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Second,
all right. All in favor, Tammy?
Yes.
Jamie?
Aye.
Dawn?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Yes, for myself.
Thank you.
Final audit, Matt.
Okay, so there are two pieces being presented tonight, and the auditor is required to communicate to the school board. And the first piece under that requirement is the engagement letter. So basically, this letter sets the items that they're going to be auditing, and also basically it's the scope of their work. Okay, and as Jamie said earlier, I have to add in a section in there that requires them to provide a management letter, which a management letter usually identifies weaknesses and areas of improvement to the school board. Okay. The second piece is it's a required questionnaire, and this questionnaire goes over in the board's knowledge of fraud over the district, and yeah, it's a relatively new requirement. It's probably now about like 15 years old, and basically, as auditors know, most people don't divulge information unless they're specifically asked. Okay. So the auditors are specifically asking the board if they have any knowledge of fraud over the district. And it goes into this particular questionnaire. And I think it's very important that the school board is made aware of this questionnaire. And I think it's appropriate that it's done in a public session like this. So if you have any questions about the district, you can give them to Jim. Jim's going to put them on the questionnaire and then send it back to the auditor.
Get ready for,
Have some kind of a deadline on that.
Jamie's going to write a small book. So
Okay. However, the thing I need approved tonight is the engagement letter.
Okay. All right, motion to approve the engagement letter. Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Jamie?
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment to include the language that it would include a management letter, which shall also consist of identification of areas of opportunity and improvement, as Matt had just indicated.
Okay, anybody else?
you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll amend my motion to include that amendment.
Whatever. Second.
Okay,
Whatever.
roll call vote, Tammy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
and myself is yes.
I do have to point out on that management letter, when I was doing audits, I always got management letters, always.
Most do.
So I'm accepting of that change. Okay. All right.
So what it would be, what's a reasonable deadline for your schedule for anybody that has anything they want to get back on the audit governance?
I would think if they can get it done in the next week or two, that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Okay.
You just
so-
want us to fill it out and send it
Do
to
we
you?
each need to fill
Yeah.
this out and sign it?
No.
I
And
just-
basically, normally what I would receive is a yes and no vote. And usually, rarely did they go to this level and discuss it at a full school board. Okay. However, I have seen that done, and I think it's an appropriate conversation to have.
So do you want them to each fill out the survey and
Uh,
give it?
Only if they have concerns, they can fill it out too. I mean, they can give their concerns to Jim so he can report them to the auditors.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would think that we could get that done within a week. Wouldn't you agree?
I can send it tomorrow.
Okay. So I don't have a calendar in front of me. Can we get a specific date?
Week from today be the 17th.
That's correct.
Okay, so the deadline is the 17th of,
The deadline to
if you have
add stuff to
something you
this?
want to add to this form,
Okay.
get it to me by the 17th of this month.
Clarification, add to the form or answer the form?
Well, by add to it, I mean include in the form, answer the form.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
not
if you wanted
change, not
extra
change the
questions.
form. No. Yeah. All right. So you all set on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Jamie has another meeting that he has to Zoom to.
Tom, you've got a public letter?
Yes, thank you. The PR committee has
Jamie.
read this letter already. We developed this letter as a per the board's directive to create a letter for the community. And I just thought I'd take a moment to read it. And then if the board approves, we will place this in newspapers, constant contacts, and multiple sources of communication just to kind of keep the community informed. So the letter reads, "Dear community, we are writing to share some important information from the Sanborn Regional School District. On Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, our communities will be asked to vote on a number of warrants, including professional staff, teacher contracts, administrative contracts, and the overall school budget. We are writing this letter to share facts with our communities prior to voting day. The Sanborn Regional School District has proposed a budget of $35,525,942 for the 2021-2022 school year. This is a reduction of $890,430 from the 2020-2021 budget. Should the proposed budget fail, the default budget will be implemented. The default budget is $2,000 higher than the proposed budget. The proposed budget has been unanimously supported by the school board and the budget committee. There are 2 collective bargaining agreements on the 2021 warrant. The professional staff contract has a raise of 1.5% in year 1 and 2% in years 2 and 3, including steps. The administrative contract is a 4-year agreement that includes a cap on health insurance costs and has a 1.5% increase in year 1 and a 2.75 increase in years 2 through 4. Both of the contracts have been supported by the school board and budget committee. Overall, Sanborn administration, the Sanborn Regional Education Association School Board, and the budget committee have worked collaboratively to balance class sizes, save money through efficiencies such as the reorganization of the district, and keep teacher salaries from falling further behind while recognizing the hardship our communities have faced during this pandemic. We continue to work toward the goal of cost efficiencies while supporting our staff and students. We invite you to join us in supporting the warrant articles this year on Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Swayze Gymnasium at the Seminary campus for Kingston, and in the Newton Town Hall for Newton voters, which will now be adjusted to the new location, which was
Fire rescue station at 8D Merrimack Road. I'll
8D,
8D.
Yes.
8D, as in dog, Merrimack Road at the fire and fire rescue station. Thank you. So we'll update that one component. Is there anything that you as a board would like to change with this letter or speak about before it? I mean, obviously I just read it, but it's a draft.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
one line, if I heard it right, is confusing to me. So I think you read that the professional staff is 2% including steps. And I think it's 2% excluding steps. That steps are over and above the 2% increase. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you. That was meant the way you said it, but I can see now the way it's written, it didn't.
Yeah,
come out- Yep.
it would lead somebody to believe that, or it led me to believe the way it was read, that 2% included the full impact of steps. And I don't think that's an accurate.
Thank you very much. You are correct that it should read 1.5% in year 1 and 2% in years 2 and 3 plus steps.
Yeah.
Instead of including. Thank you. Great catch too. I was reading that kind of, I was proud of myself. I was in a groove there reading that. So
I'm
Thank you.
watching you.
yeah, I know. We all know. All right. So plus steps is the correct terminology. So that would be a good idea to change.
Anything else? So I don't think we need a motion on this. We can just say, do it, right?
Where it's a letter that is coming from the school board through the PR committee, I think you should do a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a motion to approve with the wording change that Jamie proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Tammy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Yes for me.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
I think Jamie seconded it. Did you motion it? Did you move it?
Yeah, I moved it. Jamie seconded it. Yeah. All right, got early release.
Thank you. So certainly, as we all know with the pandemic, and Jamie brought this up before, we've been doing early release days for most of this school year, and particularly for those teachers at grades 7 to 12, it has been really beneficial because they're teaching students remote and in person. So they're still teaching synchronous students at grades 7 to 12. Grades K through 6, there is a lot that goes into running a socially distanced classroom. So the staff and the administration have asked me to come to you and ask for an extension. The early release days run out next week. So you guys, as a board, you authorized them to continue until February break. They're asking you to continue them because it's a huge help to them to manage all of this. So I just wanted to bring it to you and find out how far out you're willing to extend and what you'd like to do moving forward.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah.
Discussion. Go ahead, Jamie.
So given what we just did in the previous point, it would be a little bit incongruous to say, no, it ends, and then it starts back up again.
Right.
Even if it's for a different reason. So if in fact it turned out that it was no longer necessary. We don't need synchronous. Everybody's back in person all the time. Then I would suggest that you start the process of, since you're going to be talking about math programs, et cetera, starting in March anyways, that you start that practice immediately.
Yep.
And don't wait until the fall. And you use the time to do that if the pandemic issues lighten up.
Which we all are hoping they will.
Yeah.
With better weather and windows open. I mean, the fall, once we closed the windows, it got harder, but provided that people did the right thing over the Super Bowl and people do the right thing for the February vacation, hopefully we will stay in the mode that we're in today.
Any other comment? Dawn?
I would just like to add that I do think it's a good idea. Jamie has an extremely valid point. I mean, that's, but I want to, just from a student perspective, I've got 6 kiddos between my children and nieces and nephews. And I see a huge benefit for them with having the half days. It just gives them that day to kind of, in the middle of the week, that makes it easier to get through the whole week.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much that they have to follow. There's so much routine, so much structure, the mask breaks, all of that, that just having that half day has just been a blessing for them, at least in, you know, like I said, it's only 6 kids, but it's a pretty good gauge, I feel like, you know, so I think it's definitely helpful to them, and clearly it's helpful to teachers, staff, you know, all of that. So I think it's a good idea to keep going.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You want to make a motion, somebody?
Yeah. I make a motion to continue the Wednesday.
Early release day Wednesdays.
Early release day Wednesdays. Thank you.
Yep.
To the balance of the school year.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Tammy?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Myself. Okay, second public comment. Okay. Did you have your hand up, Matt?
Yeah. What's an appropriate point for me to ask about Beaky? The boilers at Beaky.
Oh, I thought that was on the
I
agenda.
know.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was.
How about under other business,
Okay.
which is right now?
I'm sorry.
No, it was my fault. All right. So earlier today, it was brought to my attention that we have 2 boilers at Beaky. One's a primary boiler, one's a secondary boiler. Normally they alternate running all the time. Well, our insurance company has forced us to turn off one of the boilers because it has a leak in it. The leak is I've seen it. Basically, it looks like you take a milk jug and turn it on its side, and that stream of milk coming out, that it looks like that stream coming out of the side of the boiler.
Talking about water, right?
Water. It's just water.
Is it hot?
Well, if you turn the boiler on, it's hot, but the boiler's been turned off and isolated. So the Beaky's been running 100% on the remaining boiler. And it was identified today that boiler starting to leak. But when I went and looked at it, it's weeping. And I sent a picture. And if you look carefully, you can see water trickling down the side of the boiler. So the time is limited now on that second boiler. And if that boiler were to fail, I can rent another boiler. That boiler, the rental is like $8,900 a month. But what we had been planning on trying to do is buy some time throughout the spring to hire a mechanical engineer to help guide us through in trying to pick out the next boiler for Beaky. What I want to do or ask the school board tonight is to waive school board policy DJE, which deals with bidding requirements. And so I can appoint HL Turner Group just to design the system for Beaky just for the boilers. Now, there's 2 reasons. The first one is to make sure that the boilers that we purchase don't interfere with any future adjustments to the building. So say, for example, we want to bring in HVAC, that these boilers are compatible with that system. And the second one is I want to make sure that the mechanical engineer is going to be working for the school board in the best interest of the school board, as opposed to the best interest of the installer.
Right, a sales, okay.
Okay.
So I would just add, in a project like this, it's not unusual to hire an outside engineer to spec what it is that you're going to put out to bid. And it's, when you're building a house, typically the architect would do it. When you're doing a project like this, you'd have a mechanical engineer do it. And it just protects you from installing something that's undersized, oversized. It's not going to be as efficient as what you want. And in the long run, it can save you money. So that's my 2 cents on it.
So can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So Matt, you're asking to waive the policy for the hiring of the engineer,
Yes.
but the project would still go out to bid.
The project would still go out to bid.
And the reason that you're asking for the waiver on hiring the engineer is because of the emergency that
Yes.
we're facing at Bakey.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm worried that the boiler is not going to make it through the RFP process for the mechanical engineer.
Okay.
So really what I'm trying to do is design it now. And when it's designed, then go out to bid for the system and then install it over the summer.
And did you get any estimate from them on what the cost to do that engineering would be?
They said it was going to be, I asked for hourly rates. They gave me $150 to $175 per hour. They did offer to give us a base number for the design work, but they would have to actually see the boiler. And so unfortunately it happened today, so I couldn't have them come out and look at it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can do it 2 different ways. I can do it by the hour, or I can do it as one lump number.
Comments, Jamie?
Just for a matter of prudence, I think you said the name was H.L. Turner.
Yes,
Do you have any personal relationship with H.L. Turner or the mechanical engineer?
I do not. This was a firm that was recommended by our district's attorney because he's been working with a lot of other schools related to HVAC systems and the issuance of debt related to that.
I expected that answer, but I just wanted that on there.
No, I'm glad you asked. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. For transparency's sake, that's really important.
Tammy?
So my question, I guess, is not so much related to the waiving of the policy, et cetera, except that I'm uncomfortable as far as how we got here, that we're having to make these decisions under the situation, emergency situation. And I'm not looking to place blame, but I think we should ask ourselves or try to determine how did we get into the situation, and what steps are we taking to make sure that we don't end up in this type of a situation, this emergency situation where we're facing a boiling, or our heating system failing at our elementary school. I'm very uncomfortable. I'd like to know how we got here.
Okay. So before 2 years ago, we didn't have a good CIP plan that identified future needs. Okay. And I've been working with the facilities committee to try to get a good quality CIP plan in place. Okay. Really, it needs to be like, you list out all the systems in the district and the useful life of that system and what its current condition is. And that document really didn't exist before a couple of years ago. So the boiler that got isolated, even though it was known to leak, it didn't leak as bad until this particular fall. And then our insurance company forced us to turn it off. Okay. We knew it was a problem that we had to address. I thought it was going to be solved with replacing the seals between the different sections. And then it's turned out that we need to replace 7 out of 9 sections.
And we've always been able to do that before.
Yeah, we've been able to turn the boiler on, warm it up, and it's self-healed. It just wouldn't heal this year. Okay. So
We've always been able replaced the sections before.
That's right.
That's right.
If you look in the photos that I sent to the board, the middle sections have been replaced before. Okay. So then I've been communicating with members of the board about the need to do this. Okay. But I also told them that I felt that that boiler can make it through the year, and we have time where we can walk to getting an RFP out for a mechanical engineer and do it without having to run to a solution. It's just that the events today occurred, and now I got to kind of walk quickly.
Scramble.
Well, and I'd like to just chime in very quickly that I agree with you 100% that having to rush or be, the problem is that there are two boilers. I just want to make sure the public understands this. One boiler we have known all year has been a concern. What happened today is the second boiler is starting to have problems. And when it was inspected, we thought it would be okay while we went through this process. So we were anticipating being able to move forward. So it really,
Last inspection.
yeah, it passed inspection.
Yes.
So
When
it's
was that?
It gets inspected every year.
every year.
When did it pass inspection?
This past summer.
Last summer it passed inspection.
Mhm. So
When was this brought to the facilities committee's attention?
The boiler?
When you say we knew about it,
Mhm.
that's, I don't know who we is. I didn't know about it.
yeah, it's,
The
it's
facilities committee, when did
Yeah,
they? when
yeah.
did
I
they meet?
usually raise facility issues with the facilities committee.
When was that?
I don't have dates in my head.
We'd have to go back and look at what was
minutes.
discussed as
Yeah.
part of the CIP.
Yeah,
It's probably within the last 2 meetings.
yeah.
Well, I think we'd have to go back and look.
It only got isolated, I think, in December.
both boilers passed the inspection, right?
Yes,
Right, but there was a subsequent inspection where it failed.
that's right.
That's
The
right.
other one was still fine.
Yeah, one's a state inspection, the other one is an insurance inspection.
Right,
And
and
the
that was
insurance
within a
company-
few weeks
Like the
ago.
insurance one must have failed.
Yes,
They made us shut it off. And when was that?
I think it was in December.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That was recent.
So
Yeah.
fairly recently.
Well,
Okay.
and to be clear, we also thought that the second boiler was going to be fine, right? This is the emergency is that the second boiler light is having
Right, it's the primary.
Right, right. And I think this is a great conversation for the public to hear. And I want to be, just for transparency, so this doesn't happen again, we are having problems with the high school heating system as well. No surprises. We all know about it. Maybe the facility committee should try to, while we're developing the CIP plan, which is very close to being done, almost an hour away from being, laid out in an arc, but not with tons of detail and dollars attached. Matt has worked very hard with the facilities committee to develop that. But to your point, that really should be shared with the board soon, because there are some major concerns that could be emergencies. So I just want you to know, so that you're not surprised later or anyone else in the public. We had a problem with the chimney at the high school last week, and there was black smoke coming out of it, and we had to have people come, and we're going to have it cleaned. And frankly, to be really direct about it, Dan and Matt, Dan Doyle, who you hired to help us with the facilities, has been doing a phenomenal job inspecting everything. So some of this stuff is coming up because he's doing a great job. The other reason why it's coming up is because Matt is new and is auditing everything.
Yeah.
Right. We're moving from being reactive to being proactive. But the reality is that the boiler at Bakey has been on its last leg for quite a while, but it kept passing inspections. So we kept thinking it was going to limp along until we could get through this. And you never know, we might make it another 8 weeks. Right. But it's just hard. And so what Matt is saying is, I just want to define the emergency. Matt is saying that if you don't act and allow him to hire someone to engineer this, that means that the risk is you may have to pay $8,900 a month plus the fees to hook it up for an auxiliary boiler. So that it's not really, I want to be clear that we're not saying to do this right now or else, because I don't like that feeling either. Matt laid it out, but I just want to lay it out again kind of very carefully, that the proposal is to either waive the requirement for the RFP for the engineer or risk having to have a temporary boiler installed and the cost associated with that. So it's not, I just want you to know that you're not up against a hard point here. There are options, right? And I just think that's important to note. So the question is, which option would the board like to use? Would you like to waive the policy so that we can hire the engineer and move forward quicker? Or would we like to go through the RFP process for the engineer and maybe have to pay for an additional auxiliary boiler to be hooked up in the interim should we need to do that? That's the real question for the board.
And to your point, your question, Tammy, I just want to also add that this is my 4th year on facilities. And when Steve Riley was the facilities director, these kinds of issues happened before.
Yeah.
The high school had a boiler section where the gasket had to be replaced. They take them apart, they put in a new gasket. There's one boiler that runs while the other one shut down. They put it all back together. They leak, they seal up when they start them up in the fall. And it's like an old boat, you know? An old wooden
No,
boat.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not into boats.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You put it in the water and it leaks and then it seals up and it's fine. So the fact that the one boiler, the leaking didn't seal up, and then, so that one failed inspection, but then the other one had passed still, and it was just business as usual. Well, we're going to get that one repaired and we'll probably have to replace the other one. But then this happened, and then, so now we have to decide, like Tom said, do we want to spend $8,900 plus the cost of installing a boiler that they'll bring on a tractor trailer that runs remotely? Or do we want to spend whatever it is to hire an engineer and come up with a plan for replacing that boiler? To me, it
Sounds
seems.
like we might have to do both. If it
Worst
fails,
case, worst
primary
case.
fails.
Yeah.
No,
well,
the worst
we-
case would be to
Sure, we have
hire,
to replace one of them.
The
The other
worst
one, it sounds like we can
yeah.
repair.
the worst case would be to hire a vendor just to install a boiler.
Right.
Okay.
A new replacement boiler.
Yeah. Cause then
Right,
then
because
it's
that
like, then
messes
you're
up-
giving up to that vendor the choice of what's being installed.
Right.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily fit with the future HVAC.
That's right.
possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I'd rather plan stuff out than deal with it in an emergency basis. The weeping is making me nervous, but I think that we still have, we can buy time with what we got. Just not much time.
Jamie,
So a couple of points. One is I'll go back to the facilities meeting tonight. I had a number of questions. We didn't have a lot of time in the end. We're going to have a new special meeting. But I question the need for a mechanical engineer rather than just getting it spec'd by the manufacturer. The comments that Matt, you and Jim have made here help to alleviate that concern. So thank you for pointing those out. To Tammy's point, I once made the comment to myself that, you know, I'm not going to be rushed into anything. So I can completely understand that. My perspective would be, we had double redundancy proved out in the summer. I have a primary and a secondary, both work. And then we had somebody say, one of them, we don't like what we're seeing. We're shutting you down from an insurance perspective. So we still had the other one, it's fine. And what Matt is saying is, now I'm not so sure about the other one because I thought the primary was going to last and it didn't. Now the second one's weeping and we should do something now rather than risk it. So I'm prepared to support it for that reason. I don't think that we were negligent. I think that we are looking at things deeper and we thought that we had double redundancy. And it turns out that we have double trouble instead of double redundancy on them. So just my comments.
okay, any other comment?
Can I just ask a question? Matt, you, in the email you sent and tonight you said pictures, but I didn't get pictures. Did they, I don't know if they.
I
came
I
through.
re-
Come through on my phone.
I resent them.
I'll look again.
Maybe I didn't send them to the full board. Do you want me to put pictures up on the screen for you to see?
That doesn't, I just was curious as to what it
Yeah, I don't have them either.
like.
Oh, you don't have them?
You can just forward them to the whole board.
They're
I
not
can
in
just
the
put them up
shared
on the
file.
Okay,
screen.
sure.
It's like a horror show.
Sure.
Okay.
It is pretty scary looking, to be honest with you. Mr. Doyle, was there anything that you wanted to add while we're? Okay, thank you.
asked the same question when I first heard about this.
Yeah.
Is it coming up?
You already got it on your screen.
Yeah. We fixed the mics.
They are way better.
This was just working earlier.
Yeah. Larry, can you hear us way better tonight?
I most certainly can.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. I can talk normal and I don't feel like I'm being too loud or soft, you know. That's been
Yeah.
nice.
Hey.
There we
Okay.
go.
So these are the two boilers at Bakey, okay? And the issues are actually on the other side. The boiler that's closest to you is the one that is running right now. There's actually a window where you can see the flame in it. The farthest one there, that's the one that's being isolated. And there's actually a handle over the top. The pipe that comes out is where the heat comes out, and the pipe's been right here has been turned off. So
Matt, how old are these boilers?
I want to say these are from the early 80s.
And what's the life expectancy of a typical boiler? I'm asking this for the public, not the, yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
So this is the side of the boiler that's no longer in service. Let me see if I can make this bigger. So they're in sections. So this one right here, this is a complete section. And then there's a seal right there. You can see that red thing. That's a seal. So these two sections right here are completely gone. Okay. These two sections here are gone. And then I think this one here is gone as well. So there's a total of 9 of these sections that are just
Not functional.
not functioning.
And how many sections are there total?
I'm sorry, there's 7 that are not functioning. There's a total of 9.
So there's only 2 sections in that boiler that are functional.
Yep.
They're original sections from 40 years ago.
This is the remaining boiler that's running, and this is not really a good picture, but this is what it looks like. Oops. This is water weeping out right here out of the side of the boiler. Okay. And this right here made me like uncomfortable because it looks similar to the boiler that's failed, which this is a close-up. No, I meant this is a close-up of that boiler.
That's the one that failed.
Yeah, that's the one that failed.
Is it more white because it's not running?
Sorry.
The other one, because is it darker because it's not running and the water's
I think
not?
this is the lighting.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's see. Do I have another picture of it? Yeah, this is the running boiler. This is the 2 sections put together, and in between is the seal that's gone, and it's rotted away the 2 sections.
So is it possible for a temporary fix to have those 2 sections fixed just so that we have a little more safety, or is it, I don't understand anything about boilers.
Operating, you can't shut that one down without.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
To fix it, you can't shut it down. Dan's going to help us out.
To fix it, you would have to shut that unit down. So that would leave the school with no heat during that process as they're fixing it.
How long does that take?
Well, that could take probably up to a week to do because the sections are thousands of pounds and you have to build a crane system in there to disassemble and reassemble each one of those sections.
Okay.
These boilers are unique in a way that it's kind of a living unit. When they expand and contract, together and they move together. The problem is when you replace these sections, even though you can replace them, they just don't function as if they were with the other sections because you're putting new metal against old metal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The rates of expansion. Yep.
quality amounts as the years go on gets better. So they expand and contract and they grow and everything else. So when you put in a new section with an old system, you're looking at having the same problem happen again a year or two down the road, just because they're expanding and contracting at different rates.
But we have done that successfully before.
Yeah.
Yes, it has been done, but it's also very limited though, as far as what you can do on it.
On this particular boiler, it was pointed out to me that these 2 sections are original to the boiler and these 3 sections are original to the boiler. Everything in between has been replaced once before.
If not twice before, actually.
Yeah,
And it's still failing now.
yeah.
Well,
'Cause you said-
different sections.
Well, no, I think he said 7 out of 9. So
Well, that's the boiler that's
oh,
shut
thank you,
down.
Jim. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So can we move the motion?
Is there a
To,
motion?
the motion is to waive the bidding process to hire the mechanical engineer.
Did you make that motion
Yeah,
before?
I'll make
Are you
it.
making it right now?
Yeah,
I'll second that.
okay. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote. Tammy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Aye.
Dawn,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
myself.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Great. We have a brief non-public.
Okay, so Larry, can you read us into the non-public?
I most certainly can. Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into non-public session for RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2.
Okay,
Second?
all in favor, Tammy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Yes, for myself. I'd like
Thank
to,
you.
well, I'd like a motion to hire Dan, what's his?
Oh,
name?
Gordon Parks.
Gordon,
Yep.
Parks.
Gordon Parks, for tech director at $108,000 a year.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
okay. All in favor, Tammy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Aye.
Dawn,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
and yes for me.
That would be the end of this meeting.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.